Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Good evening, everybody. We are live with the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Robert. A little bit different tonight, as Ken will not be hosting. He's kind of producing in the background, but we're going to be having a discussion about craft beer and talking about the Black experience in the craft beer world. So today's episode is called Drinking While Black. So again, my name is Robert. I'm going to go around the room here and have everyone introduce themselves, and everyone that is here in the panel. So I'm going to start with, to my left, I'm not sure what's on the Better on Draft screen, but I'm going to start with Sasha.
Hi, I'm Sasha. I didn't know I was going to have to go first. What I do in the craft beer world is drink craft beer. That is about all I do in the craft beer world.
That's not true. That's not true. You're a model for 734 Brewing.
It was an accident. Anyway. Oh, and what I'm drinking, speaking of which, I'm drinking some 734 cream ale. I did have the great fortune to have a beer named after me at 734 Brewing, where I just came from before I got here. What else do? I don't know. That's it.
That's it. All right, then I'm going to go around to Damon next.
How you doing? I'm Damon. I work at 8 Degrees Plato Beer Company for about 8 years now. And I also work for Red Tap Draft Solutions. I go around to different bars and restaurants, clean, install, and repair draft beer systems. And I am drinking a No Save Point City Built collaboration with Run the Jewels.
Nice. Love it. Wayne, take it away.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Phillips. I co-host the fabulous Brewz Brothaz podcast along with Harry Weaver and sometimes Sasha the Beer Girl.
Sometime.
Up there in the corner on my screen. And I've been an advocate craft beer drinker for quite some time. And tonight I'm starting with Black Excellence beer that we helped create the recipe for, that I helped brew myself personally, so I started with that. And next I got up, because I don't know how this conversation is going to go, and it might not be too palatable for all those who are listening at some points. So I thought that would be next, but hopefully down, away, so that we can take one giant leap as a culture into something that's called utopia. And just in case, we're gonna run those yellow bellies out of town.
Okay.
So that's what I'm drinking over here. I'm at home and there's no telling what else might pop up.
Doing the most.
Wayne, always with the ammo. I'm gonna go next to your other co-host, brother Harry.
Harry Weaver, co-host also of Brewz Brothaz, co-founder of Brewz Brothaz, beer drinker, Black folks in craft beer spaces advocate. Right now, I am drinking Solo Mosaic from our good friends over at Ferndale Project, from my Run the Brews glass. I don't know. I'm gonna play by ear the rest of my beers for the night. I don't have a playlist like Wayne, but this is the first. It won't be the last, I assure you. And Robert, I'm certain maybe you don't remember, but the first time you hung out with us over at El Mary's, you know how we get down. So,
yes. Yes, I do. All right. I'm gonna go to Barb next.
Hey everyone, my name is Barb Baker. I'm the Siren of Stout. I am a TV host. I am also an event ambassador for Brooklyn Brewery in Brooklyn, New York. I'm first level Cicerone, so the beer server, first level Cicerone. And also I am the vice president of Fermento, which is a women's craft collective here in Michigan. Oh, and I'm drinking Hannah Ferguson's, who's going to have her own winery very, very soon, out of Modern Methods Brewing in Warren, Ohio. So I'm drinking her Black is Beautiful. Delicious.
Awesome. And then finally to Mr. Kuma.
Hi, I'm Kuma Forimensa, brewer in title anyway, but been in the Michigan brewing industry since 2012, making beer, promoting beer, selling beer, just doing a little bit of everything I can get my hands on. And at the moment, a mortgage loan officer, but still tapped into the industry, still making things happen. Got some projects on the horizon, hopefully.
There we go. All right. Well, and we're going to go ahead and get into kind of our first thing I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of one of those elephants in the room that we've covered, we've talked about, but I guess I kind of want an update to where everybody is with them. But we're going to talk shortly about what I like to call Charlotte Street Brewing, which is otherwise known as Founders. Of course, the short story for everyone else is that Founders were subject to a discrimination lawsuit, claimed innocence, blamed the victim, proclaimed victory, claimed to know the color of the person in the legal deposition, and then proclaimed there was no basis, and then settled a lawsuit. Founders is pretty much, with the settlement, has kind of swept the issue under the rug, at least in my opinion. Even coming out, with their own version of Black is Beautiful last year. For those of us who know and are actively, continually avoiding their beers, I'm gonna start with Harry on this one. Is there a place where they can earn forgiveness, or is it too late?
Hey man, you killing me, dog. As I was reading the show notes, I promised myself I wouldn't go first on this, that I was gonna let some other people, because I'm such a loudmouth about this. But since you went on and threw me in there, I guess there's really no tactful way for me to say it. I'm still Puff Founders, man, and will be for the foreseeable future. I don't know, quite honestly, what the answer is in terms of what could bring me back. And there was some conversation on the page a couple of weeks ago. Admittedly, it is personal for me because I had a bit of an insight in terms of just how much they did push this away as if it were nothing. And then as a further, kind of disrespect for them to invite Brewz Brothaz to the table to have a discussion about actually coming on the podcast and then ghosting us without another word, after you, even despite my several text messages to follow up. I'll be good if I never have another drop of Founders beer. I will be absolutely fine.
Okay. And Damon, I know that when the fallout happened from the deposition and everyone started to stop selling Founders, that 8 Degrees Plato had then stopped selling Founders. Now I've kind of been in and out of the store every now and then, but I haven't seen it on the shelves. So is it still the point where 8 Degrees is not selling Founders?
At this point, I believe there have been we sold through, I think, what we had, but it wasn't out and available at the moment. I don't believe we have brought anything else back in at this point. So we are, Tim, the owner, had talked with all of us, and we all came to the decision kind of that, great strides had to be made before it could, be seen back in the store again.
And I guess, I would go to Kuma on this. To you, Kuma, is there a stride that you'd like to see that they would make? I mean, obviously they've done the Black is Beautiful, but it still feels, at least to me, empty-handed because they haven't done anything with the settlement or with the lawsuit. So, I mean, is there a stride that you see, or really the rest of you guys, if there's anything that you see that can make this better and make this more, a communicative place where we can start going back?
Well, I think,
so one thing that I think they can,
yeah.
I'm sorry, one of the things I think is a stride is actually another slap in the face. This whole idea, these soul food pierogies that this local chef that they put on the menu at the Detroit Tap Room. There was an article on, I think it was on a CBS local affiliate, highlighting this and saying how this was an ode to Black History Month and highlighting this Black chef and so on and so forth. Yeah, by putting slave food inside of a pierogi. But anyway, my larger point is that this is highlighted in this article, but on the founder's page, where they're highlighting this chef, there is no mention of it being in any way in honor of Black History Month. It's just like, oh, this is something we got on the menu, done. So when I inquired about it relative to the article, of course, I didn't get a response, on the page. So, I mean, they really seem to be continuing to still be up to the same old, man. To me,
it kind of seems to be the moves that they're making, moves that they think we want to see.
Yeah. Right now, I know that I've heard, because we've been doing some with Fermenta, we've been doing some stuff with, not with them, but they were I'm not going to get into it, but they're wanting to do some stuff with us. And basically, the problem is they had a 3-year plan, like a 10-point plan that they were trying to put out there, and they've made no progress on it. So they brought somebody in to enact all of these plans, but they're not really doing anything. So it's funny because we were kind of discussing stuff with Dr. J and a couple of the other sort of diversity, inclusion women and stuff like that. And she was saying acknowledgement, apology, action, and atonement. And the only thing they've done is the last two. They're putting out the beer, they're putting stuff on their website, but they haven't acknowledged that they did any wrongdoing, and they're not going to apologize. Which those two things, and here's the other thing, they're not going to, because their market share has gone up. I don't know if people know that, but when this discrimination lawsuit came out and they were like, we don't care, their market share shot up. So their base likes what they're doing. So why apologize?
Well, if you pay attention to the local beer pages, you see it. And even on their pages, they toss out buzzwords like virtue signaling and pandering to minorities and yada yada yada. So we are a very small portion of their market share, obviously. But for me, whatever market share I used to be, I will no longer be. And I know that that's the case for a lot of folks I know.
Yeah. Well, quick, I want to jump back to Kuma because I think Kuma had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, my bad, Kuma. I didn't mean to jump in on you, brother.
All good. Yeah, no, I think it's like a lot of what we've seen from them is a lot like Barb said, like throughout the entire lawsuit, as all that news was being revealed, there was never ever along the way an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. It was always like, well, yeah, we took care of that, or yeah, we addressed that, or actions were taken. It's just like, okay, but do you acknowledge that you have issues within your organization, within your culture? You acknowledge that those are to be worked on, and not just like, oh, we're like, we went through we jumped through the HR hoops to make it okay. It just constantly reads like, until they acknowledge and recognize that there's truly a systemic issue within their organization, that everything that they do it just feels like pandering. And I mean, I'll pass all day IPA, a beer I used to love, and I'd buy a 15 case of that all the time. I pass all the time now, and I'm just like, I'm still not messing with it, just because until I feel like there's some genuine acknowledgement that like there was an issue, but instead there was just a legal and monetary settlement. So it's not enough.
For me, it's kind of like,
and I guess
Robert, before we get off this, I probably was one of the biggest Founders fans around, and through this issue, we tried to help Founders before it became public. And national news, Harry and I very much tried to give them some advice on curbing it before it got big. And, you know, just to give a clear example of they're doing nothing but pandering now, last year, you may recall that we had a Black History Month sign up for the Charles Wright Museum at Eastern Market Brewing Company with the Masons. And we had an event down there. And it just so happens that Dave from Founders was at Eastern Market that evening. Now, Dave from Founders, who those who may not is caring about the Black community or Black involvement, when he was offered the opportunity to purchase a membership at the Charles Wright Museum of African American History for the low price of $25, he passed. And this was after he had just received that multi-million-dollar sale of the company. But in terms of just so.
Yeah, I think we may have like officially lost Wayne now. All right.
I can maybe give a little bit of insight on that because I'm familiar with that program. I mean, at the time there was a push to get, you know, membership in the museum, so on and so forth. And it was right after the whole San Miguel piece. And if there were an opportunity and I were in that position and I had all of this, you know, negative publicity in this way, for $25, I would have said, give me 4. Give me 4 memberships. I'll keep one and I will give the other 3 to people, you know, I'll give them away as prizes to our bartenders. I will make sure they get distributed within the Founders family. But these are things, for me, it's not the actual act, it's the lack of thought. Because that thought probably never crossed his mind. It probably never crossed his mind that, hey, we're kind of already in hot water. You know, this is a very small gesture that could soothe some of that. But instead, it's, you know, no, we good. Because as Barb mentioned, the market share is fine. If they were hemorrhaging money because some accountant was doing something wrong with the books, they would fire them on the spot because it affects the bottom line. But whatever racism or other issues that are going on that are not affecting the bottom line, and in fact the bottom line is improving, then why would we address it? Is their attitude. And so again, that's what'll keep me from drinking their beer.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if you saw some of the news outlets and what happened with Boulevard and their discrimination and I believe it was like more like a sexual assault lawsuit that hit with Boulevard, that they handled it where it was like kind of plausible deniability. And then they came back and said, you know what? No, we screwed up. So I think I kind of feel like if Founders went in that route and did that, we probably still wouldn't be in this situation. But going into kind of one of the things that obviously Founders has done along with other breweries is the Black is Beautiful movement, which, you know, we've had the Black is Beautiful beers that have been hitting shelves for the better part of the last, I think it's like 8-9 months. We just had a new one come out here in Michigan from Ascension, which is really, really good. But we've seen all of these breweries that have been making these movements and participating in these movements to provide money for, you know, the Bail Project and, you know, racial injustice and all of these causes that we have. But there are breweries that have not. Now, not every brewery that, you know, Black is Beautiful has been out there and like a bunch of breweries have done it, but other breweries have done similar causes as well. So I don't want to negate their doing of what they've done for the Black community as well. But for the breweries that have not participated in something like this, does this make you lose favor with those breweries? And if so, is there something for them that they can do, obviously, to gain the business back? I'm going to go to Sasha on that one first.
I don't think it makes me lose favor with the brewery unless they've come out and said specifically, we are not doing this because we don't want to be a part of this movement. I think there are some small breweries who just can't do it. They just are not able to do this at this time. That's fine. But no, it wouldn't keep me from going there or enjoying their beers in any other way. Again, unless they were like, we just don't want to donate to any of these causes. We don't believe in this movement. We're just going to step away from that.
All right. Kuma, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. I would actually, for me, it's more, what I think could have gotten lost in the noise or wasn't happening at all is all these breweries are saying up front, like, hey, look at us. We're joining the cause. We're hopping on that train. But I'm curious to see, and this is a thing that I think general breweries don't always do well. I'm curious to see the follow-up. I want to see the receipts. I want to see who you donate to. Like, what is your involvement with that organization? Why did you choose that organization? Tell us about that organization and tell us what your money went towards.
When I've gone to buy beer, and because I've gone to some sort of podunk breweries that have been doing Black is Beautiful around Michigan. And I've gone in there and asked, who are you donating to and why? What made you choose that? And they always have an answer. So far, so good. But I want to know that too. I want to know if they're just doing it because they think it's going to sell some beer, or do they really believe in this? Do they really care about what they're doing? And so far, I've been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And I think in general, a lot of people are, they're doing the right thing and the money's going to where it belongs. But, it's still one of those things that, like, it's very, very, very easy to put up all the upfront, like, come buy the beer. But, like, it's not always easy to be able to, or I think it is easy. It's not always common to see, like, okay, now that all the sales are done, we've done the tally, we've done the accounting. Here's how much we raised, and here's where it's going. That's just the visibility I think has been lacking, or at least I haven't been seeing it as readily.
All right. Okay. Damon, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sasha and Kuma about not everyone's able to. Smaller breweries are not fully able to participate. However, there's definitely been some smaller breweries that banded together and they went in on a collaboration together. And I know there are a few more breweries in Michigan specifically that have yet to release theirs, and that some haven't been announced that are on the way as well. So I wouldn't necessarily, they haven't necessarily lost favor, but I think if you're going to do something, you should probably do it sooner than later. I actually think I read at Weather Souls on the wall, there's a quote on the wall. It said, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time is today. And it's the same thing with these seeds of inclusion. You want to start doing it now so that as we go along in the future, all these seeds are already planted and we are, getting closer to the point where we feel included and are included without, a second thought.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Now, I know that, there's obviously with the amount of breweries that we have in the country, there are not a lot that are Black owned, but we do have our fair share of allies, be it, the gang over at Eastern Market, Brew Detroit, over at Batch, Five Shores. We've got quite a few that are out there. Speaking of Five Shores, because I wanted Barb to talk about this real quick, is that there was one collab that I kind of want to talk about with Barb and Five Shores and the 24th Cheesecakery. So I was curious about this beer and the reception that you have gotten with this thing just selling out so fast. What is up with this beer?
You know what? It's funny. I was going to say on the Facebook post when you guys were like, are you going to bring it? I'm thinking Kuma can get it. He's there now.
I got some.
The great thing about this collaboration was it was 3 people with the same goal and the same outcome. So you guys know Matt, and Matt is huge on community, diversity and inclusion, welcoming all people, you know, to the space. And then Sean from 24th Cheesecakery, I hope 1 million people go to 24th Cheesecakery. His professionalism, his customer service, you know, his cakes, but he has it all. Like, there's probably people that don't know him, but once they know him, they will not go anywhere else. So it was such a real joy to work with both, you know, to work with people who all have the same, you know, this is what we're doing, this is who we're helping. You know, we'll give proceeds to take one community program, which is here in Pontiac. I've known the CEO. It's been was founded like 23 years ago. So it was great. I mean, the pies are delicious. We put them in there. I haven't tasted it. Have you tasted it, Kuma, or are you just holding up a can?
I tasted it. It's delicious. It's really good. Yeah,
tomorrow will be like the release sort of, and I'll go there and I'll taste it. And yeah, I was really blown away by when it sold out. I think they were blown away too. I think they were like, oh, we'll sell what we can, and then the rest we'll take it to like holiday market but awesome. Thank you guys. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Hey man, so that's the thing. You can't, Barb. You can't.
Don't underestimate
the
power of Brewz Brothaz.
That's what I'm saying. You can't bring a beer to Brewz Brothaz talking about, oh, it's dope and it's good, and then expect it to just not be gone. So now you know that when you bring it to us, there's not going to be any left to take the holiday. There's not going to be any left to take the produce station. It's just going to be gone.
Well, the good thing is I'm really lucky because, you know, I have a Brewz Brothaz family. I have a Taco Tuesday family, it's a black beer group out of Chicago. And we meet up every other Tuesday and talk. And they literally just were like, now I have to send it to them, but they were on it and they bought it. They sent me shipping labels and they were like, boom, boom. So it is, I mean, I am overwhelmed with appreciation for the people that came out for this.
And Barb, I gotta say, I'm glad that we were finally able to connect over the summer. I know that we were, you know, we've
I was
always
going from
been
brewery to brewery, chasing you around.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We've
Are
always
you
been
Harry?
in some
Are
of the
you
same
Harry?
spaces and like just missing each other. Because I do, Fermenta is such an incredible group, and to be able to finally bring the Siren of Stout to the Brewz Brothaz community. You've been a great addition, and I'm like I said, I'm glad we were able to finally, you know, touch base because there really is some synergy there. I'm looking forward to tasting your project with 5 Shores there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Barb.
Oh, Wayne,
yeah,
I like tacos. I like tacos, Barb.
I don't care.
We're not here for tacos. All right, real quick. We did have a donation of $5 from I Am Kyle. If you would like to donate, you can go to www.betterondraft.tv and click the donate button. I do not know where all the donations are going to go, but they're going to go somewhere, and we're going to figure that out. But I'll just tell you that they're not going to go to us.
You said that was from Kyle?
Yes. So thanks, I Am Kyle. I All right, so as Barb just kind of touched on it real quick, I actually was going to bring this up and just kind of talk about spaces. And you know, obviously with the whole Black is Beautiful movement that kind of came out, there were those spaces where people would post cans of the beer and there would be a contentious group of people who rather ignorantly, trollingly, or just straight up racistly would make comments like, well, why isn't there a White is Beautiful? Or make comments like that and wonder why they're not being included in the spaces that we create, Discord or other social media platforms. You know, we as Blacks and minorities have our own spaces to discuss beer topics, as Barb has mentioned about being able to get beer labels and things to help with producing this beer. personally, I've seen the racial bias in some of those groups where someone would post up a picture of their beer cellar and those people are like, oh my God, it's so awesome. I can't believe everything that you have. And then I post up a picture of mine and those same exact people are saying, I can't believe you're cellaring all of that beer. It's such a waste and things of that nature. I guess the question to you, which actually I'm going to start with Kuma on this one. In terms of those spaces, I can't, even ask the question of whether or not we should still keep them. That is a resounding yes, I think, to me. But can we get to a point where we can just have one damn space where everybody can be together and, not have such a bias towards us enjoying craft beer?
Yeah, I mean, are you referring to an online space or a physical space? I guess is my question.
Either or. I mean, it's from the online spaces seems more volatile than doing anything in a physical space, because it's like going to some of the events, going to Ale Marys with the Brewz Brothaz. It's like everybody's there and everybody's having a good time and it doesn't matter and everybody just enjoys good beer. But you try to share a personal experience with beer on an online setting and suddenly the trolls come out and it's like, why? just if you're not into it, just turn the fuck off.
Yeah, I think, and that, in the every online community is in my opinion anyway, like a very kind of volatile
cesspool.
Yeah, cesspool is a good word. Just like a volatile, like it's for whatever reason people get behind a computer screen. They don't gotta be themselves behind those words, and and so I don't know. It's an ugly space a lot of times. But shout out to Harry and Wayne. Honestly, of the beer groups that I'm in, the Brewz Brothaz is the most diverse group that has just countless people just enjoying beer, and that's it. Enjoying beer, fun ribbing, that's it. That's all you want from a beer group. It's truly like there's
there, yes.
Yeah,
because beer is supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah, and like everyone's respecting, like if someone gets caught sharing a founder's beer, we let them know. We might tug some pokes at them, but we let them know,
Right.
But you'll see like a Michigan craft beer enthusiast, every other beer they post on there is a founder's beer, and at times it feels like they're rubbing in our faces. Honestly,
that's exactly what it feels like.
That's and so that's I guess physical space, that's a whole other question. But online space, I don't know, expand Brewz Brothaz. Just Brewz Brothaz worldwide is my take on that, I guess.
Hey man, Brewz Brothaz, it keeps expanding, man, and it's so organic, and it has been from day one. We don't advertise, we don't have any billboards or anything, man. People just keep talking to other people, and we build. I will say this, and I'll keep it brief and let the next person go. I'm not willing to relinquish Black spaces for craft beer or anything else for that matter. I have grown comfortable in the spaces where I drink beer with Black people because there are conversations I'm not having in front of white people, and I never will. And those conversations can and do happen very organically in the groups that I'm in with other Black men and Black people. So I think that those spaces are important. And that's not to negate the spaces where everybody is, because those spaces, I think, have their place as well. And I participate in those spaces, and I bite some ass in those spaces when I have to. But again, I think the spaces where I'm able to have some different kind of conversations and speak in some different kinds of ways will always be valuable. And it's not something I'm willing to relinquish, because at some point white folks are going to decide that they want to play nice. That's like the whole argument of, saying we don't need HBCUs anymore. Well, because white folks have decided that now we can go to their school. So, it's a similar dynamic, which neither of which I entertain.
I don't think there needs to be a choice between either or. I think there's nothing wrong with having Black spaces or minority focused spaces, period. No one says, why do LGBTQ people want to have their own space? They want to, and that's it. No one is questioning that. No one is saying, why can't we have this just be one, brewery or one online space? I think it's fine to have both. Mm-hmm. Like Harry said, there are conversations that I have among Black people, among Black women, that I am not going to have in any other environment. And I want to be comfortable and have those conversations in that space.
I mean, one of the crazy things, though, is even in our spaces, which Brewz Brothaz was created as one of those spaces, but we've been accepting of everybody and anyone who comes in. So even though it's predominantly a Black cultural space, we do accept everyone. I mean, and even to the point of most of you probably have seen a post where someone posted that brewery from Charlotte Street the other day. Yeah. And I reached out and gave them opportunity to defend themselves instead of immediately just pulling a post down or talking bad about them, just to see what was going on or what was their thought process. But I think what it comes down to, and what that post showed, is that when you confront any of those folks who have those alternative way of thinking than we do, they run and get scared. And they get tough behind the keyboard. But when you confront them, they're not ready to put these hands up. And they're not ready to have any type of confrontation, especially if you're calling them out specifically. And we didn't hear anything from the guy. And it's just unfortunate because, I think he was just a hiding yellow belly.
Which is a pretty decent beer from Omni Polio, but thanks for the try Jesus moment right there.
Right. Don't try me, because I throw hands.
I'm gonna go. I am gonna go back to Wayne on this one now that his internet and AT&T decided to actually work right. So it was kind of a topic. It's actually working. Wayne asked me to brought this question up, and it really brought my curiosity out on it because I'm really curious what the answer is to this. So since the movement pretty much skyrocketed last year to buy more Black-owned business products and buy Black, and that going crazy, that there are more breweries in the U.S. who say that they are Black owned. We talk about craft breweries in a metric in how they are craft based on the percentage of them being owned, which I think it was 75% that they own their own business, that they are considered craft. Is there a minimum percentage to earn the term Black owned in regards to craft breweries? So Wayne, it's you.
I think we need to define what that looks like. I mean, because I think, unfortunately, when I look at that list, I can't help but to think that a lot of those breweries are trying to pull the wool over our eyes and aren't really Black owned. And to me, if you're going to quantify yourself as Black owned,
this is referring to the list that came came from Beer Advocate.
Yes, okay. Referring to the Beer Advocate list. Yes,
that's a long list.
That list was too long, and I'll just point. I like 734, and we had a great time up there. We know Sasha's a model for them, but they are not a Black-owned brewery. When we went and we did the podcast from them, they are a partially Black-owned brewery, but they are not a Black-owned brewery. And, that's not a knock against them, but I think we need to clearly define a Black-owned brewery is at least being the majority, 51% minimum, to constitute yourself as a Black-owned brewery. And I think that list needs to be revisited. And that question needs to be asked of all those breweries that were listed, what's the percentage of minority ownership? Because one, in a corporate world, and to get even corporate grants and corporate funding, to be considered minority owned and get minority designations, you have to at least be 51%. So I think we should follow those guidelines and not just have 33 or 30 or 20 or, whatever. If it's less than 51%, I don't think we can call you a Black-owned brewery.
I have a follow-up question.
And I mean, we've got...
If I may.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I'm curious. I see what you're saying in terms of like creating a precedent and creating a standard and having it being something that we agree on. But I guess I'm curious to know how would you suggest that we do that without discounting the efforts of someone like Brian Jones Chance at 734? Like he is,
and I tried to preface that with not this. I mean, I like 734. We had a great time, and I think I applaud them for being partially Black owned.
Yeah.
But in all reality, unless you're a majority, you have majority ownership, you can't say that you're Black owned because the majority of the ownership is not Black. So I think it's not right to have that label when the majority and you know it's just a minority percentage. You know, so it's not a knock against them. I mean, we have allies that don't have any minority ownership. I mean, Dane being one, and we got a long list of folks who don't have any minority ownership, but they're allies, but they're also not professing to be Black owned. So I think if we're going to have that designation, it needs to be clear, and that you should be minimally a majority minority ownership before you can use that label.
And if we are deciding that in this industry, for some reason there's a different makeup that qualifies you, then that needs to be a discussion. I think Wayne is the perfect person to have addressed that because this is his world. He works with corporate entities and knows it's his job to know these designations. And so if for some reason the brewing industry is saying, hey, we know that this is the metric in the corporate world in general, however, we're qualifying it in a different way because so on and so forth. So if we're deciding that the metric is different and we have a legitimate reason for doing so, then so be it. But if that's not the case, then, you know, the rules are what they are. If we're talking about the ability to declare yourself a minority-owned business or Black-owned business is the same criteria that you would need to use to apply for a grant in that same way, then that's, at this point, if we're just speaking factually, then that's what it is.
I got you.
I still think it's important to acknowledge breweries that maybe don't have 100% Black ownership, because as we always say in everything, representation matters. Because without people like Brian Jones Chance, there is no Black holder. You know, if you don't see yourself in those spaces, if you don't know that this is something you can do, whether it's 100% you or not, you know, how do you feel like you belong here? How do you get comfortable in that space? I don't want to just completely ignore what it takes to own your own brewery, no matter what color your partner is in this industry.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that completely. And I don't think we should. You know, I'm a huge fan of 734. We had a great time with them. They're friends of ours. And this is not a knock against them whatsoever, but it's just a look at reality in terms of saying, hey, we need to utilize that example that we have from Brian and say, hey, how do we expand upon that? How do we grow that percentage from a third ownership, which is, I think, what they have up there using 734, where they got 3 owners and they all got a third, and a third, which is fantastic because most breweries don't have that. But how do we expand until we got Black Calder, which I'm assuming is Black owned because of all the press that's been given and been released. We haven't talked with them. We haven't seen the financials to truly know. And again, until we define and come up with a metric that's utilized in the craft beer world to say what is the percentage, because even, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure everyone has minority investors when they start out, and the key is to not lose yourself with those minority investors to where they end up having the majority of the ownership, and sometimes, and there's lots of, let's get out the craft beer industry, for example, and just get into the industry as a whole in business. There's lots of businesses in Detroit that have straw man ownership professing to be Black owned businesses so that they can get grants and things for their funding. And there's one of those businesses we know a lot of, but I think it was pretty much widely acknowledged when Dave Bean ran for mayor and had to sell his business, so to speak, because it was a Black owned minority business, that it was not completely minority owned as it was professed to be. So we've got a lot of people that get straw men so that they can get those grants and economic funding, from the federal government in terms of being a minority-owned business when in reality they're not. And I think we just need to guard that, because now, again, as we try to get into that space where we are completely trying to get that ownership and those grants are no longer available because others have utilized that space and opportunity when they shouldn't have got them, then that's a problem. So I think it needs to be genuine so that we can grow, just organically and rightfully into the space as we should.
Mm-hmm. All right, I want to get Damon and Barb's thoughts on this as well, and then we'll go to our first break. So I'm gonna go to Damon on that one first.
Got to unmute myself. Sorry.
There we go.
I see kind of both sides of it, where just like Wayne's talking about, where you want that 51%. Like when I was in construction for a long time, and anytime there was construction in the city of Detroit, you needed 51% Detroit residency to work on the construction sites. That was the way that, we could guarantee that the work for Detroit was being done by Detroiters. And I definitely understand that aspect of it, but I also don't want to diminish I want to be careful and not to diminish the actual progress that has been made with 734, which is what Sasha was talking about. It is very important, and I know Wayne understands that. I'm not trying to say he doesn't understand anything, but it's definitely it's definitely kind of we need to look at it more and just kind of determine where that ownership percentage lies. If it is a percentage, maybe it's another value that we can look at to see if this is the ownership of it or not. I'm not sure yet, but to be honest, I haven't thought about it much in preparation for this, so I can't say too much more on it.
All right, Barb.
Yeah, and I haven't thought about it a ton, but I think the reason there's a lot of breweries that are open because they have that backing. Like if they had to be on their own and they didn't have that majority with them, they may not be a brewery. They may just be still home brewing out of their basement. So now, as far as them using that one black person that they have to get loans and grants and all that stuff, they shouldn't do that. They should know, I got my, I can get it from somebody else, because they can actually get capital from the bank or whatever that a lot of us can't do, which is why we don't open up breweries. So as long as they're not robbing the system, but yeah, it does need to be designated a little bit more. If you say black-owned breweries, not 8,500, 8,000 of them are actually only 20% owned by Black people, or a third, then it's not really, like a third isn't the same as like Sean, where he owns 100% of 24th Cheesecakery. Yeah, I'm putting him back out there because I love Sean. It's 100%.
You're going to have me bring a cheesecake in the house, and then my wife is going to kill me.
It's delicious. Get it. But you can't, if you designate, because the struggles he had versus this guy who's a third, and his partners have, grandpa's money, and they can walk into Huntington Bank and get some money just by going, yay, great. It's not even. So there should be some sort of designation, but I mean, am I the person to solve that? No.
I'm not sure if any of us are to solve it, but at least we can definitely bring it up and get somebody to solve it for us. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. We will be talking hopefully a couple other things about things like unpleasant experiences in this craft beer world, and talking about hopefully some ideas about advertising and getting more minorities into the craft beer world. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with the Better on Draft podcast. Hello, everyone. We are back with the Better on Draft podcast, part 2 of Drinking While Black, the Black experience in the craft beer world. We have our panel here with Sasha, Barb, Damon, Kuma, Harry, and Wayne. We're going to go ahead and get into our next little talking points that we can get into. So one of the things that I wanted to also go through with everything that we kind of talked about in the first part is to kind of talk about our own experiences and some of the weird experiences that we have had in the craft beer world, whether it being just going to a brewery and, you know, walking into a brewery and it's suddenly looking like everyone just started staring at you and stopped as the record skipped, to, you know, other things where we've gone to beer festivals and like I've always said, has to be at a beer festival and counts the Black people that are there so that I know where my allies are when I need to escape, if I need to escape. So I guess I wanted to start just to talk about, in the beginning here, to talk about our unpleasant experiences that we've had in the craft beer world. So I'm actually going to start with Damon on this one.
Yep. Oh, did I? Oh, crap. Oh, my bad. I don't even know how to bring it back.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that.
All right.
So in addition to the working in the industry, you're always being tested on your knowledge, for one. No one can believe that you know anything about beer, especially more than them. But when I was just starting out in exploring beer and getting to know it and, you know, building my relationship with it, I had the opportunity to be taught by a beer professional. And by that, I mean someone who you might find at GABF handing out awards and stuff. He was teaching us how to, beer sensory and stuff like that, and how to, you know, basically appreciate the beer and go through everything in it. At the end of one of these sessions, he walks up to me and he's like, "Damon, you're a bit of an anomaly." And already in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, where's this going? Where is this going? He says, you know, people of color tend to lean more towards dark liquors, not beer. And, you know, being a much younger man and the climate being completely different than like it is today, I was a little bit more patient with him than he probably deserved, and I kind of just, you know, at that moment though, I knew, even though he thought it was weird, it was kind of my place. I was creating a space for me and myself to be in this industry, because I belonged there with everybody else who was enjoying the beers. But it's just that those types of comments, they can discourage you, diminish you, deter you, all the D words that you want to come up with. You know, it can deter Black people from actually exploring their newfound interests. And it's just kind of dangerous and stereotypical. And like for someone that was pretty young at the time, like, to be honest, right now, I'm lucky that I didn't let that phase me and, you know, put me down enough to not explore it any further.
Gotcha.
Damon, it sounds like he didn't respect those hands.
Don't try me.
Because I throw hands. Yeah, so.
Did
Do
you
it to yourself.
Robert?
Don't play yourself.
Yes.
I had something to tell. So I want to say a couple of things. One thing is when you talked about going into spaces and counting the number of Black people that are there, this is literally how I met Damon. We were at a release at a Ann Arbor store for a brewery. And I'm in there, it's like summer, and I'm the only woman and I'm the only Black person. And I'm like, shit, you know, and so I'm looking around and you're like, I don't know, behind me or something. And
Sasha, was this the Equilibrium joint?
I was trying not to say no names of nothing, but since
that Bluefront.
Thank you, Harry.
And Ann Arbor. Yeah.
So I was I hate you. So I was buying stuff and I look over and there you are. And so, but that's one of those things that I do. I go into a place and I'm like, okay, how many other Black people are here? How many other women are here? Because if there are no other Black people there, I'm gonna then look to the other women that are there. Cause you know.
Do you pick up the bar stools too to see in case you got to swing one? See how heavy they are?
No, but I do know where the
exits
are.
I do.
And the next thing I want to say is that my experiences, sometimes I listen to the stories that Black men say about the spaces that they go into, and it's different for me. I get a lot of the, you must not like that kind of beer? Or do you know what you're ordering? Or, you know, and people will offer me the super light fruity thing. I also really like cocktails, and the cocktails I like are heavy on things like Italian Amaros. And so when I go and I ask for these things, people are kind of like, okay, are you sure that this is the thing that you want? So I get a lot of that. Are you sure? They're not outwardly, you know, like you don't belong here. There's no aggression behind it, but it's just this kind of, maybe you would prefer this, you know, light lager as opposed to a barrel-aged stout. I get a lot of that.
Like an implicit bias.
Do you?
Do I like a light lager? It depends. If I'm eating sushi, I want a light lager.
It was such a real
I know that's going to mess up my whole palate if I'm eating. You know, it depends on what you're eating.
There. Kuma, what do you got? You've been in this for a while into this world.
Yeah. In terms of spaces, I mean, I don't know if I can point to any one particular instance where I definitely felt unwelcome or looked at. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of always a background thing, but I think for me, my experience of like questioning whether I'm welcome, questioning whether my experience is valued is sometimes I find myself in jobs where it feels like there's more friction to get things done than I anticipate. And I'm coming in like, well, I'm coming in with the experience. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and put Glass House on blast. So Glass House Brewing Company is one of the worst experiences in my life, right? And so like that was a place that I haven't spoke on it very much, but realistically, like, I don't know, they're long out of business and whatever. And so that was, I came in to be their head brewer. I came in as the only person in that organization with brewing specific experience. They had years of experience running a glass business, a glass installation business. But this is, as any, the thing sensible person knows, the glass business and the brewing business are very different types of businesses. And I came in with years of food service experience, bar experience, and enough years of brewing experience to run their brewery. And yet every step of the way I was being challenged with like, yeah, but. And I was just like, well, I mean, what are you basing that on? I'm basing that on what I know directly tied to the game of making this type of business work. And I'm trying to help you do that because I want all of us to succeed in this situation. But it's that sense of like, is this happening specifically because I'm Black? Like you can't shake it. You can't shake it. Like, it's just like, but the other thing is you can't ask it either. You can't directly just be like, is this because I'm Black? Because they're, you know, like people are going to deflect. They're going to be like, no, it's not. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's true, but that's what you're going to hear, right? So it's just like, you're just kind of stuck in the space of really fun, like trying to figure out like, why is this such a struggle to get done the thing that seems mutually beneficial to everyone involved, with the experience that I'm bringing to the table, the knowledge that I'm bringing to the table, to help get this thing off the ground and get this thing really working the way that we want it to. So, and for now, that's all I'm gonna say on Glass House.
Which is no more.
All right.
So.
Which is no more and never again. They can join founders. Fuck Glass House too.
So much for that lifetime membership that I bought back then.
Right.
Because, you know,
sorry to everyone who
it was their lifetime, not yours. So
there you go. Yeah.
I bought that membership because Kuma was running it, and I believed in Kuma in making that is one of the best breweries ever going to be out there. And it felt like it just Kuma was just standing on the rug, and it just pulled the shit from him. So it's just like, I was like, well, y'all suck. So it's just kind of what it is. I'm gonna go to Barb next on that. Your uncomfortable or unsettling experience that you had in the craft beer world.
I'm gonna be honest, I have not had a lot of bad experiences. I mean, my even getting into, I can't even think of and my experiences aren't tied to beer, they're tied to America. They're tied to how America is. So even my first beer was great. And the experience has been great since. Like, I've been in bars where I'm sitting there and I like to sit there, and I like to go to bars alone, or I used to before COVID. You sit there, you have a drink, maybe you're doing your bills or taxes or whatever, you're reading a book, because I like the organized chaos. There's a lot of stuff around you, but you're sitting there and it's quiet. And I don't like when people go, hey girl, okay. My biggest pet peeve is being called girl. I don't know why, but it always has. If you want a conversation to be over, have a white woman go, hey girl. So that's what I don't like. But see, that has nothing to do with breweries. That has to do with America. And I don't like, you talk to other people and then you turn to me and you go, what's up, girl?
And that's something you say to a child. If a white woman said to me, hey, boy, it's gonna be a different kind of conversation than she may have intended.
Yeah. So I use
among women
right after that,
I go, you're trying too hard.
Yeah, I haven't been a girl since I was 10.
Yeah.
And, okay. Oh. And then sometimes people will just go, oh, I my bad. Or, well, don't be so sensitive. But then we're going to get into it. So that has nothing to do with breweries per se. That has to do with America.
Yes, yeah. It's a macro thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't attach any bad thing to any brewery I've been to, or any beer situation or beer journey. It's been coming up roses for me.
Beautiful.
Fair enough.
And you know what? People
the fact that a lot
that.
of breweries are in America, but other than that, you know.
Yeah, when people tell me, I told my mother, like, I haven't had a bad experience. She's like, well, maybe you have on rose-colored glasses. I'm like, no. When I hear, people say I've had good experiences, I would love everyone to have good experiences. Like, I want my daughter to only have good experiences. I'm going to go out of my way to have her have amazing experiences. Why not?
Yeah.
I would love her to go, yeah, my childhood was amazing. Not to get into it, but you guys know what I'm saying. So I've had great experiences. I love it.
Harry?
So, yeah, so, and I don't know that I've ever shared this publicly. I know Wayne has seen this, and I don't know if he's noticed it, but Brewz Brothaz also, there are a number of us that have some significant expertise in spirits as well. And so we have picked a number of bourbons, a number of private barrels that we have collaborated with a local store. And without exception, each of these barrels has received phenomenal acclaim, right? So, amazing. So when people post these bottles on some of these local bourbon groups, they post them and people talk about how amazing they are and blah, blah, blah. And when I pop in the conversation and I'm like, yeah, we picked that, there are certain people who every single time don't comment any further. So just a very kind of subtle, like, all right, well, I'm gonna back off of this. And the first time it happened, I thought it was me. I was like, oh, this is one time. I thought I was tripping out. But it's a pattern of some of the same people each time. So now every time I see one of our bottles, I make it a point and I make it my business to say, yeah, that's a Brewz Brothaz bottle. Yep. And don't get me wrong, the vast majority of the bourbon community are highly complimentary. Like, yo, let us know when y'all doing another bottle. Let us know when we can get them. I'm like, man, you got to jump on it. They're usually gone in 24 hours, so on and so forth. But there's those conspicuous few that once they find out where the barrel came from or who did the picking, the curiosity wanes. Like nobody's talking about it anymore. These people are no longer chiming in, on this particular bottle, which I happen to know our bottles are excellent. So it's not a matter of disagreeing with the fact that it's good. It's obviously a problem with the individuals that had a hand in selecting.
But
that sounds like another America problem.
It is an America problem.
Yeah,
it is.
That's the culture of America.
Yeah.
To do that.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
and again, by and large, the
bottle
community
and
is very accepting.
All right, just gonna
What'd you
have
say,
Wayne
Wayne?
finish that one up.
Yeah, they're still buying and accepting that and enjoying that bottle. They just want to stop the acclaim so that we don't get it. You know, that's what happens, because there's no way, you know, we unfortunately aren't selling out those barrels on our own. Right. They're jumping on because they know we've got a reputation of having great picks, you know, so that's why they're gone in 24 hours. But the thing is, this whole segment, like Barb mentioned, and like you just said, it's a macro problem, because it's bigger than just a brewery. We've all got examples, and it's just life in terms of, you know, I've been one of the onlys in so many situations in many facets of my life. From the corporate side, when I was a younger than 30 vice president at a Fortune 500 company.
That was only like 10 years ago, right? Because you're 39, right?
I know. I'm only 39 now. I mean, so just recent history.
I thought you was 38,
you know,
man.
so
did you age?
No, 39, man. 39. But you know, so I'm like, it's three of us at the corporate retreat that has filled up the whole resort of 3 hotels, but it's 3 Black people in the entire, you know, audience, you know, so they're always looking at you. They're always saying, and then when you're introduced as you're leading the pack or having the top numbers, or, you know, you walk into a brewery and they want to play you as if you're in the wrong place. And it does happen, just like Robert said. The record does screech to a halt. Everybody turns and listens to you, and you have to stand up and stick a toothpick in your mouth and act like Eddie Murphy, like you're the new sheriff in town. And let them know that you're not afraid of these hands, so that they don't step to you. Because like you said, we count the numbers where we are, and we pick up the bar stool just to know how we have to swing it just in case, because things have gotten crazy in different times. But all we want to do is go enjoy a beer. Typically, we know more than the majority of people that are in the place. And like Sasha said, you know, they ask you and look at you like you're not only a noob, but in the wrong place, don't know what you're doing, don't know what you're having. And you can discuss brews or spirits or anything, you know, regarding liquor, as far as we're concerned, with the best of them.
With the best
you know,
of them.
And it's unfortunate, because it takes away from you just want to go in and enjoy yourself. You know, whether it's the quiet, calm, like Barb mentioned, or just to go in and unwind and enjoy a good cocktail. I want to chase it with a great beer. I just want to have a great time, you know, a great experience. Right. But the sad part is I've always got to be on airs, because I never know when I'm gonna have to throw these hands just in case. But it's really an awful way to live.
But does it ever get to a point where it goes to the other end of the spectrum, where people are doing too much?
Oh God, yes.
It's the worst.
What can people do?
Too much. Because when you're doing too much, you know what you're thinking.
Sasha can't go to the bar without leaving with a boyfriend, at least in his head.
Much is never enough.
I gotta hear what Sasha's story is. Sasha's clearly got a story.
Just Harry, you messing with me today? I can't. I
gotta saying. Did I say something that was inaccurate though?
Moving on. I've gone to places where it's like I don't want to say any names. Okay. I feel like there's some breweries that I've gone to where it's almost like they knew that I was coming there, or like someone prepped them. If a Black person comes in here, you better get your shit. You know what I mean? Right. And it's just like over the top. And I'm like, no, for real. I just need a beer and I want to eat my food. Like, you don't have to keep coming over and talking. I just want to do my thing. Could you just leave me alone? I've had some experiences like that. But I mean, I've also had some that are right in the middle. Like, you just treat me like everybody else. That's what I want. I've been pleasantly surprised in some places that I thought were going to be like, what are you doing here? I will say one of them is Territorial Brewing. It's in Michigan, sort of near Battle Creek. and they had a Black is Beautiful, and I was on a road trip, and I said, I'm gonna come back through here and I'm gonna grab this beer while I'm out on this road trip. And it was like the only thing in that town. It was for real small. And I'm going, you know, my husband's looking at me like, you sure? And I got all the kids in the car, but I was just gonna pick it up and leave, right? And so I come in there and I'm the only one in there. I'm the only woman, I'm the only Black person. And it's a bunch of like typical looking white dudes, beer drinking white dudes that are sitting there. And I'm like, oh shit. You know, I'm looking like, okay, how quickly can I get it out of here? They were perfectly fine. Like, I can't say a bad thing about any of these dudes. They were perfectly fine. They talked to me about the beer. They talked about the organization they were donating to, why they wanted to do it. They were like, I see you, Kuma, with this beer.
Right, right. Hey, he's stunting on us, right? Like,
where's that whack meme?
I don't usually drink big stouts, but
no, today
it's so tasty. My God. Barb, what are you doing here?
Hey,
I put my finger in it.
Did y'all get some of this? Did y'all guess?
Kuma, you ain't right, brother.
We don't have a hookup, Kuma. We don't have a plug like you.
Right.
Yeah. We're gonna go into another topic here. All right. So you know, this is something that we've kind of talked about even on on the Brewz Brothaz, which kind of goes back to one of the founders episodes where we were talking about things that breweries can do that would increase their clientele diversity. And one of the things that I remember mentioning was good old Wu-Tang Wednesdays, which would be perfectly fine in a family setting because Wu-Tang is for the children. So there's no problem.
Wu-Tang is for the children. But MOP Mondays, that might not go over as well, but I'm with it.
Right. I mean, I guess that's what I'm looking for is like, what kind of event do you think breweries should add in their breweries that will, make it into a more comfortable setting, knowing that, you don't have that uncomfortable feeling walking in and you open the door and the record scratches because everybody wasn't really expecting, someone of color walking in the door. But, if you have something like a certain day of the week where all you do is play 90s hip hop, then that should be the expectation. And
when does it become pandering?
I'm going to feel comfortable in that space.
That is pandering.
So Barb, you bring up a good question.
What
I don't want, I don't want a hazy IPA in a 40-ounce bottle. That's not what I want. But I'm gonna tell you what
I think that's gross, and I don't want pandering.
But I'm gonna tell you what was dope though, and very organic, was when Cultivate did that hip hop trivia. Mm-hmm. It brought out,
So man, I missed that.
Right? Oh man, we blew it out too. But that's another matter. We went home with the trophy, got the drink tickets, whole shot.
But you also know where it's coming from because of the owner.
You know it's coming from a genuine place. So
there's no pandering.
So just like when we look at, whenever we talk about this, I think about Monkish out on the West Coast, and most of their beers have like these obscure hip hop references in their names. Mm-hmm. None of the owners are Black. However, on any day of the week, when you go into Monkish, it is clear that these individuals are into hip hop culture. They're not exploiting the culture.
Yeah.
It's clear that this is like they've been into the culture since it began, or since they were very young. So, and you can even tell by some of the labels and by some of the titles, because these titles are so obscure. Only someone who was really into the culture in terms of hip hop would know where Bomb Atomically comes from, or would know where Planets Gotta Rotate comes from. And so,
and they do have people of color on staff in there too.
Oh, absolutely. So you understand and know that it's coming from a genuine place. And so, if Founders was to name a beer, Bomb Atomically, I would not look at it so favorably because of who they are. So I think it's just as much. Right. It's more who they are than what they're putting on a label or putting out as advertising.
Yeah. But I guess in terms of the thought of it being pandering, I guess it feels like that kind of chicken versus the egg thing. I get it where, it's because where it's coming from with the owners, but you don't get to know the owners to get where it's coming from unless you're there at the brewery to get to know the owners. So I guess I'm a little stuck on this, because it's just like, if a brewery were to do something like that, I mean, is it going to just immediately going to be seen as pandering? Or is it just going to be
for me
like,
it's something you
give
can't
it like the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, for me, it's something you can't quite articulate. Like if I roll up in Monkish and they're playing, you know, and they're playing tracks from Hard to Earn, which is my favorite Gangstar album, I'm gonna be like, okay. I mean, this album came out when I was a sophomore in high school or junior in high school, and again, somebody who's immersed in the culture would understand what a classic album this is, as opposed to going to Founders and they just happen to be playing 50 Cent's latest album, and I'm like, okay, this is something different.
Well, my other thing is we're not a monolith either. Like,
we're not a monolith.
A lot of
absolutely.
We don't need to have rap music playing in order to feel welcome or any sort of way. There are Black people that don't like rap music. That doesn't matter.
Show them to me.
I'm just saying. Like, we invented classical music. So if you play that in there, like, we invented quite a lot of genres of music. So maybe if you play any music, it belongs to us. So we should feel welcome wherever we go. I mean, honestly, it doesn't have to be a certain brand or genre, or they don't have to have, you know, the what were you saying? The 40 ounces?
Music.
40 ounces.
It's not the music.
Yeah, they don't have to
it's the vibe.
IPA and a 40 ounce.
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe.
Yeah.
It's not about the music
it's the
at
vibe.
all. And
it's all the vibe. And the vibe, you can't fake the vibe, because when you go into a place and it's not just the owner, but it's the people that they attract. It's their clientele.
So it is the owner.
That's what
because the owner is in charge of the vibe.
I think it comes from the top.
Right, but I'm just saying,
they're the head of the fish.
But if you don't meet the owner, because birds of a feather do flock together, then you feel that vibe when you go in that it's okay. Versus when you walk in, no matter what music is playing, we know that the vibe is off. And when the vibe is off, now you're on high alert. And now your experiences change. But when the vibe is right, and it is top down, because the owner does create it, then that's all we're looking for, a good vibe. The music is meaningless, because whether you're playing music or not, whether it's rap music, gangster, gangster rap, classical, top 40s, we one of our Brewz brothers, Mark Donkers, put out the 100 top hits of 1984. That was before I was born, but I'd heard a lot of those hits. I said,
allegedly.
Wow, that was a great year.
Allegedly.
That was a great year for music. And it was from Prince to Madonna to Phil Collins to U2. Everybody else was, was on there. Yeah, because at the time I was 2 years old in 1984. But I was like, wow,
this is just
a great collection of music. So, those are the things that it's the vibe.
I think, like,
all right.
Speaking on the vibe, like, I really feel like that is set by a service staff. I think more than anything, that's who's actually curating the experience, right? Yeah. Those are the people who you're going to get your product to and ideally in a bar, especially in breweries, like if in normal times anyway, if you're sitting at the bar, you can have a chat with the bartender. But if that bartender walks up and says, what can I get you? And then silence. Sets down a beer and then disappears and goes and visibly is talking at the other end of the bar to someone else.
Vibe is gone.
Completely like, hi, do I really gotta shout to get your attention and get another beer?
Yeah, that's my one and done situation. I'm gonna drink this one that I'm gonna have to pay for, and I'm out.
It's definitely a reason why they call it the hospitality industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you can extend hospitality to every single person at your bar, every single person at your tables, every single person who walks through your doors, then that's your vibe's all off. Your whole vibe's off, and we ain't coming. Yeah.
All right, Damon, do you have anything else to add to it?
To be honest, it was really everyone kind of touched on it. It's really the hospitality of it all for me. So at Plato, we have this credo. Warmth, graciousness, and hospitality. So when someone comes in, we greet them, We say, hi, how you doing? How can I help you? We say it to everybody, regardless of who they are, you know, how they come in, whatever it is. We try to cultivate that type of atmosphere around, you know, making sure that everyone is feeling welcome and included. So if you're not being hospitable towards me, you're not, you know, checking on me, or even, you know, you don't have to have a conversation with me every time or every person you see, but, you know, just checking in goes the longest way. Like Kuma said, if you're down at the other end of the bar, just chit-chatting with somebody, and I'm over here with an empty beer, chances are I'm heading out after that. So,
and you know
you
what,
guys are
Damon,
great
Barb, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's obvious that it's intentional there. So that's the thing with things like that. It's got to be intentional. If you leave it up, if you leave it to chance and expect that people know to be courteous to everybody, then you're gonna lose. But when you make it part of your credo and say, hey, every person who walks through this door or rolls through this door, whatever the case might be, should feel welcome here. And this is a place where they should feel comfortable, regardless of.
And everybody
should
know. I'm sure we've told this story on both the Better on Draft and the Brewz Brothaz formats, is that 8 Degrees Plato, because of the vibe, is how the Brewz Brothaz podcast got started. Ken and I met down at 8 Degrees. We were just at the bar together and we started chit-chatting. Next thing you know, we struck up, you know, and we're kicking in and say, hey, why don't you guys come on our show? You know, I invited Ken to become a member of Brewz Brothaz. It was invite only.
Wayne
we showed up
like,
on Brewz Brothaz.
Better on Draft.
And, you know, and I mean, so it was that vibe that got us going into the podcast world that put us together.
Right.
You know, so that just goes to show that there was no music playing. I mean, if it was, I don't know. Tim has a crazy sense of, you know, style anyway.
I was gonna say,
so it's no telling what Tim had playing. Right.
It could have been limiting
couple comments that were a couple comments that we had in the chat here. There was one that said pandering is like porn, you know it when you see it, which, you know, is definitely true. And another comment on the Facebook chat from Bernard Jackson, he said, it's easy, just make good beer, be decent people, we don't need or want a gimmick. Which
that's my brother right there.
Hey,
shout out to Bernard
Brewz co-founder.
It's really that easy.
Yeah, without that, we're not here.
Can be, it should be, it ought to be.
Shout out to our Brewz co-founder, Bernard.
Yeah. We're going to go into one more here. This may wrap it up, but now over the years, you know, Better on Draft has talked quite a bit about breweries and efforts to, you know, have diversity inclusion. We've mentioned programs, you know, there's been obviously the little internship, or not rather the internship, but the scholarship program that we had with Schoolcraft. And there's been a lot of different collaborations with beer groups like, you know, Fermenta, the Detroit Draft Divas. But of course, we as Black people, we don't have a level of group like that. Like I think it's a 501c group on our own. Now, I will say several of us have tried to do that ourselves, but of course, life got in the way. We suddenly grew 20 years older than Wayne, apparently, and either got a house, was busy distributing our wares in 46 states, or just voluntarily got kids. But should we get to a point, and I love my kids, man, I absolutely love my kids. But should we make our own group? I mean, we obviously, like I said, a couple of us have tried, but it kind of, like I said, it fell out in time. But should we have our own group, or should it just be left to what the Brewers Association is doing with Dr. J and the diversity group, and, you know, all of the other groups that have their own segment, where we don't,
Sasha,
as Black
did you know
people, we don't have our
scholarship?
own as a space.
She didn't even apply.
Sasha just gave me the Black mama face.
I begged her to apply.
Hey, in response to your question, Robert, that's actually something that Brewz Brothaz aspires to. We haven't really announced it, but we match the Fermenta Scholarship. So, I mean, it's something that we are a part of in terms of diversifying the industry, and getting, not only Black folks, but women too, and Black women for that matter, involved. And there's gonna come a point where we are able to, fund entire scholarships or fund larger scholarships. But as it stands right now, we do have I don't know if it's an agreement. We haven't put anything on paper. However, we've been matching the Fermenta scholarship. So those recipients receive the initial scholarship from Fermenta, as well as a match from Brewz Brothaz.
Getting a 501c3 together is tough.
That's a conflict of interest, Harry, for me to apply for that scholarship. I just want to, don't give me that face. Just want to say that.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's definitely not a conflict of interest, Sasha.
It'd only be if you worked for Fermenta.
Right. I served on a few different boards that have 501c3s, and being a member of Brewz Brothaz, and even one of our co-hosts is not a conflict of interest because you're not on the board of Fermenta. So therefore it was okay. And the thing too is we definitely have discussed Brewz Brothaz evolving into a 501c3 type of organization. But like Barb mentioned, it gets down into the time commitment to get that happen if you don't want to pay somebody to put it together for you. It's easy just to pay somebody to put it together for you. But being that we aren't a for-profit organization, we don't collect a lot of funds, so we don't have a lot of funds to pay an attorney that can draw up the papers and help put that, in place for us. So at some point, look for Brewz Brothaz or some type of spinoff to be a 501c3 organization, because we need it. We don't just need to partner with others. We need to control our own destiny. We need to be able to help control the situation where we're going, and that way we can influence decision makers even more. Right now, it's great. The influence we have as a podcast is phenomenal, but if we were actually a nonprofit sanctioned 501c3 organization, we would definitely be able to have greater influence in terms of this, inclusion and diversity within the industry.
Mm-hmm. Kuma, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think there is definitely room and good reason to have an organization that does focus predominantly on primarily on getting more Black folk into the industry. I know, like Rob, Harry, you and I have talked about it. I'm sure other combinations of folks here have talked about it. It's definitely one of those things. I think like was pointed out, that like, unless you got the means to pay a lawyer to kind of handle that for you, that's time off of your schedule when you already got a full schedule, and that's the tricky thing. That's not that at least currently seems like a barrier, and so yeah, it's something I like to see happen, and like it's something I'm willing to help make happen. If that's, we got quite the collective right here, so maybe that's something we got to talk about going forward back in the group chat. But
here's the board.
Hey man, my boss is such an ass.
You said your boss what?
Man, my boss is such an ass. I can't really get a lot of time on that guy. He's a monster.
You gotta tell Mr. Phillips to chill,
man. I'm surprised Wayne is on now. I'm surprised his boss let him do this.
Don't tell anybody. If he pans out, I'm gonna be in trouble.
I hope his boss not on Facebook.
All right. I think that pretty much wraps us up here. We're kind of running out on time. So I think that for at least this session, that pretty much concludes our conversation here. I'm really hoping that this was interesting, informative, and
I like this, Robert. This is cool.
Cheers.
I'm hoping that this is something that can definitely done in the future. I mean, who knows? Maybe even like a Juneteenth episode to go to a part 3.
Yeah.
Maybe Wayne will have his internet
this
again.
Who knows?
Hey,
oh,
the
exactly.
fact that Kuma
Right?
doesn't drink
right?
big stouts is
I mean,
starting to show.
You need to get on this podcast train, Wayne.
I mean, Wayne's young. He's a millennial, 39. He got the tech savvy. He can figure it out. He'll get it together.
Hey, Robert. Hey, I appreciate you putting this together, man, and inviting me and inviting Brewz Brothaz to participate. This is something that I agree, man. We need to do this on some sort of prescribed periodic basis. I know we had in the show notes mentioned potentially talking about the beer and racism book, so maybe we can do that at a later time, because it really is an excellent read, and anybody that's interested in that dynamic should check it out. I want to really quickly give a shout out to the Good Beer Hunting website. So a lot of times we talk about the lack of focus or the lack of inclusion of Black folks when we talk about the industry. So they reached out to me a few days, well, actually about a week ago, because they wanted to talk to me about homes making the USA Today list in terms of brew pubs, the best brew pubs in the country or whatever. And so to reach out to me, I would imagine there was some intentionality saying, hey, we got somebody who doesn't fit our normal profile that we can reach out to, that has some familiarity with that piece. So shout to them. That article should be popping up any day now, I assume. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. So that is good tomorrow, everyone. Thank you.
Hey, man, if y'all put a time on it, we can call it a field trip.
Hey, Robert, let me get this outro very quickly.
In my city.
I thank you so much for the opportunity. This was a great format tonight. We had a great time, and I applaud you because you've done something that I've been unable to do, and that's get Sasha the Beer Girl and Barb Hollywood Baker together at one time, because they won't come see me, collectively. So, maybe if you call the meeting or the share together, we can get everybody, the gang back together for
we
a beer.
see each other. We just don't go to your house.
We maybe could work something out.
I will see what I can do, but that will do it. Obviously, shout out to our sponsors, North Center Brewing and Zatuna Liquor. You can obviously check us out on Facebook at Better on Draft, Instagram BOD Podcast, Twitter BOD Podcast. On Twitch is BOD Podcast. I think that is all of them. Hopefully, I did not screw anything of those up.
Check out Brewz Brothaz
for the culture. And Brewz Brothaz. Check out that Brewz Brothaz podcast. And to end out, to quote Joe Gerstant, a business consultant for diversity inclusion, he said, "If you do not intentionally, deliberately, and proactively include, you will unintentionally exclude."
Every time.
And with that, no matter what you drink, we think it is better on draft.
Better on draft.
Better on draft.
Love and soul. Good night.
For the culture.
For the culture.
Good night.